Today I will explain to you the fundamentals of the new Pure Fiction, explain to you how the grid exactly works, give you a guide of Pure Fiction 4 on how the enemies of Node 1 and Node 2 exactly work, so you have an idea what is happening. Then I will give you some restart guidelines, so you're able to squeeze out as much points as possible to get all the rewards. Then I will mention some important things you should know, and end with the main takeaway. So let's get to the fundamentals. The goal of Pure Fiction is to get 60k points in total, so you can get all the rewards. Well, how do you get points then? You get points depending on how much HP you have in total reduced of the main HP bars. So you start out with 0 points each node. So this is node 1, this is node 2 of Pure Fiction 4 then. So 60 points in total is the aim to get all the rewards. If you reduce the main HP bar of the first wave, then you will get 8k points in total. So you go into the next wave with 8k points. If you reduce the main HP bar of this wave, then you go to the next wave with 24k points. So you can get 16k points on the second wave. And if you reduce the main HP bar to 0 on the third wave, you will get 40k points in total. So here you can also get 16k points. And this all applies to the second node too. And the max points you can get is 80k points, but the aim is 60k to get all the rewards. So depending on how your run goes, you can distribute the points however you want. So if you have a broken team and you get 40k points in the first node, then for the second node, you only need to reduce the boss's HP like until, let's say, 20% to get all the rewards of this Pure Fiction stage. Because you can get 16k points in total for the second wave, and for the first wave you already got 8k points. So if you're at this point, this would equal to around 20k points then. And if you reduce the main HP to 0, then you would get 24k points and go to the third wave. But now let's talk about how do we reduce this main HP bar. Well, for the second and third wave it is easy. You just attack the boss, so you can just directly attack the boss. But you can also reduce this boss its HP when you kill a small enemy. So if I kill this wolf, for example, this boss will get this HP reduced by 3%. And the nice thing is, because I've killed this enemy now, another enemy will respawn. So a wolf will respawn, or one of these soldiers will respawn. So if you do AoE attacks, then you will reduce the boss's HP directly, because you're hitting the boss too. But if you kill the small enemies too, the boss will lose 3% HP the whole time as well. And it's the same case for the third wave. But the thing is, with the first wave, is that there is no boss. There is this shared HP bar. And how do we reduce this shared HP bar? Well, whenever you kill an enemy. And there are only small enemies. So when you kill a small enemy, this shared HP bar will be reduced by 5%. Well, the first time you kill an enemy at the start of the first wave, it will get reduced by 6% for some reason, but it doesn't really change the main thing. And that is that you need to kill 20 enemies in the first wave, because you start with 100%, and if you kill 20 enemies, you would have done 100% damage in total, because 5 times 20 is 100. So this is the only way to reduce the main HP bar, its HP, for in the first wave, by killing the enemies. So even if you attacked everyone, and they all got like 1 HP left, then still the main HP bar will have 100%, because you haven't killed anyone yet. So even if you kill everyone in this wave with millions of damage, then still, in total, 25% HP would have been reduced, because 5 times 5 is 25. All you need to know is that you should consistently kill these enemies. Now let's get to the role of the grid mechanics. The purpose of the grid mechanics is that it allows you to do more damage. That's it. If you just choose allies who do a lot of consistent attacks, preferably skill damage, and choose one of the synergistic buffs with your team, then you will clear this Pure Fiction. But if you are still confused on what is exactly happening, then I will try to explain it to you as simple as possible. So, in battle there is this chargeable thing on the right side, as you can see. And it charges with things called grid value. If you have charged it to the max, so 100, then you will go into this Super Saiyan state, and everything will light up with fire. It will become yellow, and now we will do more damage. How do we get grid value? There are 3 ways to get this grid value. One way is because of this main buff, and that is here on the left side, which says that if you attack an enemy with your skill, attack enemy with that skill, you will get 5 of that grid value. The second way to get this grid value is when you kill an enemy. So if I kill an enemy, I will get 5 grid value too. And the third way to get grid value is dependent on which buff you have equipped here. So if I choose the second buff, which I want to equip, so you can equip just one buff. Then it says here on the last line, for every enemy you have hit with a follow-up attack, you will get 2 grit value. But you don't need to remember the exact values. All you need to really know is, so if I hit many enemies with my skill, I charge this meter. If I kill an enemy, I charge this meter too. And depending on which, if I've equipped, I will charge my meter that way. So with every enemy hit with follow-up attacks, or every enemy hit with ultimate, or whenever I have weakness broken enemy. That is all that really matters. And if you have got 100 of that grit value, then you will go into this Super Saiyan state. In this Super Saiyan state, the grit value will go to 0, as you can see on the right side. And the only way to charge this grit value now in this state is when you kill an enemy. So if you kill an enemy, you will get 5 grit value. So the equipable buffs and hitting enemies with skill won't generate grit value in this state anymore. Only when you kill an enemy. And the limit for this grit value in this state is 30. So if you have killed 6 enemies, you will be capped and you won't get grit value anymore. And when this Super Saiyan state ends, then you will start again in this normal state, but with 30 grit value then. So why is this important, this state? Well, now, in this state, everyone will get his action forwarded by 100%. So everyone will get a turn basically. And enemies will get 50% damage, which is pretty neat. And your skill will do some set amount of damage to all attacked enemies and adjacent enemies. This one was already always the case in the normal state, as you can see right here. But now you will also do some set damage to adjacent targets. So basically all you need to know is, in the Super Saiyan state, you will do more damage. And everyone will get a turn. Well, how long will I stay in this Super Saiyan state then? So that is determined by this bird in the action bar right here. And he will just slowly creep to the top, just like enemies and characters work, until he gets a turn. And when this thing gets a turn, he will go back to the normal state. Or you can have a look at this meter on the right. As you can see, it is going down by a bit the whole time until it reaches 0. But this one on the left is a bit more concrete, since it is based on action value and all that stuff. So the takeaway is, try to do as much damage as possible when you're in the Super Saiyan state. And this state allows for many cool things to happen. Like if you go with the Fei Xiao team and you decide to use the second buff, then when you go into this Surging Grid state, so that Super Saiyan state, your follow-up attacks will do a set amount of damage to the attacked enemy and adjacent enemies. So your Fei Xiao basically becomes a blast attacker. So now her follow-up attacks do blast attacks, and her skills also do blast attacks because of this Super Saiyan state buff, which is pretty fun. If you still can't get enough points to get all the rewards from this Purification and want to know what is happening, what the enemies are doing, then I will give you a quick, easy explanations on how they work, so you have an idea of what's going on. So, with the first note, first wave, we got 3 types of enemies, as you can see. A trash can, this flying fish, and this robot. When you kill any of them, then the main shared HP bar will be reduced by 5%. So you need to kill 20 enemies in total in the first wave to go to the second wave, since 5 times 20 is 100%. But the interesting thing is, the first enemy you kill will reduce the main HP bar by 6%. It doesn't change the fact that you still need to kill 20 enemies. So let's start with this beetle. What does it do? Well, he has one attack. He just attacks you. And when he attacks you, he gets this very irritating barrier, which can only go away when he gets attacked. So the best case scenario would be, don't even allow him to get a barrier. But that's quite difficult in practice. So if he has a barrier and it is the turn of a non-DPS, like in my case, a Ruan Mei, then just basic attack him with Ruan Mei, so you don't waste your DPS, their damage, on this robot with a shield. There's only one type of damage that can go through this barrier, and that is dot damage. So if he has 1 HP left and he has this barrier, and it is his turn and he has dot on him, then he will die because of that dot. And a thing that can help you to remove this barrier a bit easier is when you kill this flying fish. Since when you kill him, he will damage all enemies and has a high chance of reducing their defense. So that damage on all the enemies will remove this shield too, which is pretty nice. And this fish also, his only attack is that he attacks all your allies, with a chance of reducing your defense. Now we got the trash can. How the trash can works like this. When you attack him, he will get that weakness type of the attack character. So if I attack him with Ruan Mei in this case, he will get ice weakness type. And he can hold up to 2 weakness types at a time. And when you have weakness broken him, he will leave the field. so you don't have to kill him. And I will not recommend you to try to kill him since he is quite tanky. The focus is just weakness breaking him. So if you have 3 weakness types in your team, try to attack him with the weakness type of characters that do the most consistent attacks. So for example, try not to attack a trash can with a Ron May when your other 3 teammates have 2 other weakness types who do more consistent attacks, because then you will end up in a situation where the trash can will have this ice weakness and, let's say, imaginary weakness, but you also have a character who is lightning, for example, and that character also does quite consistent attacks, but your Ron May doesn't do consistent attacks. So now it will become a bit harder for you to weakness break the trash can since you cannot apply lightning on it anymore. But of course, if he has 1 weakness type and he is literally like 1 attack away from being weakness broken, and of course, just attack him with Ron May and you will weakness break him. So the takeaway is try to apply weakness types on this trash can with characters with the consistent attacks, and try not to waste your DPS, their damage, on these trash cans, since the focus is to weakness break them and not kill them. But try not to ignore them too long, since every time he attacks you, since his only attack is just 1 single target attack, he will get an attack buff. So he will get stronger and stronger over time. So he will eventually one-shot you. So you should not try to leave him for the last. And now, for the 3rd wave, we finally do have a boss, which is this one. And this boss has 3 types of attacks. He has a normal single target attack, he has a blast attack, and he has 3rd attack, which is this distributed locked attack. And with lock, I mean he is marking your characters. So when does he mark, aka lock your characters? That is right before when he enters this charging state. So on his 2nd turn, I think it was, he will lock onto 1 random ally of yours, let's say imaginary MC, and enters this charging state. Whenever you attack the boss in this charging state, so the character you have attacked with will also get locked onto. But like I said, this attack is like a distributed attack. So for every character that is locked, the damage this boss will do next turn after the charge is over will be distributed among the locked targets. So if this boss was charging right now and he gets his next turn, he will do this damage, which will be distributed among imaginary MC and Ron May. But if I had attacked him during this charging state also with Locha and Rappa, then that attack would get distributed among all of my characters. And how do you make sure you don't get attacked by this attack? When you weakness break this enemy. And the interesting thing is, while he is charging, and if you weakness break him, he won't do that attack anymore, and he will get his action delayed by a bit extra. So that's a nice tip. If he is charging, try to weakness break him while he's charging, so his action gets delayed by a bit more. And now let's get to the wolf. The wolf has stacks. Whenever an ally attacks, this stack will go up by 1. And this stack is shared among all wolves, even unsummoned wolves. So if this wolf had, let's say, 3 out of 6 stacks, and I kill this enemy, for example, then the wolf that comes in battle after the soldier, if it's a wolf, also have 3 out of 6 stacks. And yes, this wolf will also have 3 out of 6 stacks, since all wolves have the same amount of stacks always. And if they have 6 stacks, then all the wolves will enter Moonrage state, which looks like this. So there is this wolf icon with this little white thing on it. And now the attacks of the wolves have a chance to apply bleed on all attacked characters. Since his normal attack is just a blast attack, but now when he's in the Moonrage state, that blast attack has a chance to inflict bleed on your characters. So when do they lose this Moonrage state? There are 2 ways. The first way is when this countdown on the action bar gets a turn, which happens when the wolves go into Moonrage state. And like I said, the stacks are shared among all the wolves. So Moonrage state equals 6 out of 6 stacks. So when I kill this soldier and the wolf comes in, he also has Moonrage. And so the first way to remove Moonrage is when this thing gets a turn. And the second way is when there are no more wolves on the field, we have Moonrage. So if no one has Moonrage on the field anymore, any wolf, then the Moonrage will be dispelled. And the stacks will start from 0 out of 6 again. So how do we remove this Moonrage then? That is when you weakness break wolf with Moonrage. So we know this wolf has Moonrage. If I weakness break him, he will lose his Moonrage. And as we can see on the field, no wolf has Moonrage anymore. So this one is already weakness broken and he doesn't have this white thing on the Moonrage icon. So he doesn't have Moonrage. This one is weakness broken if you assume that. So no wolves with Moonrage on the field. Then the Moonrage status gets dispelled and the stacks start from 0 again. That's it basically. What if a wolf who is already weakness broken and had, let's say, 4 out of 6 stacks gets Moonrage? So this enemy attacks you, then the Moonrage stacks become 6 out of 6, this wolf, every other wolf enters Moonrage state. How do we dispel the Moonrage buff then? We can dispel Moonrage when we weakness break enemy. But he's already weakness broken, so how do we remove it then? So we end up in a situation like this, as you can see. These two enemies have Moonrage because of that white thingy on them. But this one doesn't have it, because I weakness broke him when he already had Moonrage. But these two ones got Moonrage when they were already weakness broken. Well, to remove this Moonrage, they need to recover from weakness break, and then I need to weakness break him to remove that Moonrage. Or the easier way is by just killing them. That means no more Moonrage wolves on the field, since this one is dead, this one is dead. This one didn't have Moonrage to begin with, because he doesn't have this white thing going on. That means Moonrage will be dispelled, so no more wolves will have Moonrage when they enter the field, since the stacks would have been reset to 0 out of 6. But if you can just do your consistent attacks, preferably fire type or imaginary type the whole time, then you don't even have to bind the wall Moonrage stacks thing. But now you at least know what's happening. And then for the other enemy, we got this soldier. He does a normal single target attack with a chance to burn you. That's it, nothing special about it. So the focus is basically try to weakness break this boss when he's in this charging state, so his action gets delayed by a bit more, and try to weakness break the wolves consistently so they go out of this Moonrage state, so that they don't stack up the bleeds on you. And the soldiers will just die on the sidelines due to your blast or AoE attacks. Or your face shuffle whoops if you play a face out team, whatever team you can come up with. Well, for the third wave, first we got this robot right here. The first turn, when he enters the battle, he will just do a single target attack, nothing special. And the second turn, if he is still alive, he will heal all enemies by a little bit, which is something you don't want to happen. So before he gets his second turn, you want to make sure that you kill this small enemy. And this attacking and healing is a cycle he will do continuously. So if he manages to live until his third turn, then he will attack again, and then the other turn he will heal again, he will attack, he will heal. But all you really need to know is you don't want to allow him to live until his second turn. And now we got the Sulfur Main Guard. He has two abilities. One ability is he will just do a blast attack, and the other ability is he will mark one enemy. And as you can see, this robot is marked and he has this red glow on him. And when this marked enemy attacks, the guard will do a blast attack. That's it basically. It gives pretty nice energy regeneration for the whole team, those attacks. But he will just basically die on the sidelines though to your blast or AoE attacks. And then we got Gachabid himself. He has 3 types of attacks. He just has a single target attack, normal one, and another single target attack, but it deals a bit more damage. And then he also has this AoE attack. He has this ability where he gives the whole enemy team this irritating barrier apart from himself. And it's the same barrier as with the beetle robots, however they are called from the first wave. There is no workaround. You just need to attack the enemy to remove that irritating shield, unfortunately. And like I said, dots can go through it. So if the enemy had a dot on him and he had 1 HP and he gets a turn, then he will die. And that's it mostly about Gachabid. Pretty straightforward and simple. So the takeaway is just try to kill these robots. Don't allow him to get his second turn, because he will heal the whole enemy team by a little bit. And if he healed the enemy team, then his third turn he will do a single target attack again, and the fourth turn he will heal the whole team again. So he will go through this whole cycle, but don't allow him to live until his second. So hereby I will give you some guidelines to squeeze out as much points as possible so you can get all the rewards before the purification refreshes. The first thing is that when this automation hound heals at a bad time, and with a bad time I mean like this. Let's say an enemy had 1 HP, so a Locha basic attack would have killed that enemy easily, but this hound gets a turn and heals that enemy, and now he is at 30% HP. Moments like this will drag out the battle, but it is not always the case. That's a problem, because if you already want to, let's say, ult with Acheron and all enemies already had like 70% HP and this robot heals everyone from 70 to 90% HP, that doesn't matter, since you would have already killed everyone with Acheron's ult, since it would overkill them either way. Like I said, you don't want to allow this robot to even get opportunity to heal, which he will do on his second turn. And what are some other times you want to restart is when you have unlucky bounces. So let's say your Harmony MC uses her skill and all the bounces go onto the robot with barrier instead of the trash can who wants to be weakness broken. And PS, the recommended thing with Harmony MC is to use the first hit of her bounce on the trash can, since it has increased the toughness reduction, which is pretty nice. Another time to restart is when you just have unlucky aggro. And with that I mean like a squishy ally gets attacked the whole time instead of a tankier ally. So now you need to waste a skill point of your sustainer to heal that squishy ally that got attacked the whole time. So now you get into skill point issues. So now your DPS can't do her skill, meaning some damage loss. Or other times to restart is when you have unlucky crits if you use a team which is supposed to crit. So basically unlucky moments which you will just notice by yourself when you just play the game. So now let's understand what's going on with the second note on what the enemies are exactly doing, so you have an idea of what's happening. So for the first wave, same case, to reduce the main HP bar, you need to kill an enemy, and if you kill an enemy, the main HP bar will get reduced by 5% the whole time. So you need to kill 20 enemies in total, because 5 times 20 is 100%. And like I said, the first time you kill an enemy in the first wave, it gets reduced by 6% the main HP bar. I don't know why, but it doesn't change the fact that you need to kill 20 enemies in total. Let's start with the first enemy, and that is this one called Vagrant. What he does is this. On his first turn, he gives another enemy a turn and increases their attack. On his second turn, he just does a simple single target attack, and he will repeat that cycle the whole time. So first turn, give another enemy a turn, increase their attack. On his second turn, he attacks. On his third turn, he gives another enemy again a turn and increased attack, and he will repeat that the whole time. So what I would say is, don't allow him to get his first turn, which is quite difficult in practice. So a better tip would be, don't allow him to get his third turn. So when he gets his first turn, sure, he will buff someone and give them a turn. But on his second turn, he has no problem. He will just do a single target attack. But before he gets his third turn then, make sure you kill him, because then he will buff another ally again and give them a turn, which can cause for some sustain issue. And then we got the trash can again. Same trash can as with note 1. He has one attack, and when he attacks, he will do another action which increases his attack. So you don't want to ignore him for too long, because he will get stronger and stronger and eventually one-shot you. And how do you get rid of the trash can? By weakness breaking him and not killing him, since he's quite tanky. Since if you weakness break him, he will leave the battlefield. And how do you weakness break him? Well, you can give him a weakness type, 2 at max, depending on with which ally you attack. So if I attack him with Robin, he will have physical weakness type. But that's not something I want to do. I want to give him a weakness type of characters who do a lot of consistent attacks. Since if I attack him with Robin in this case, then he can get just one other weakness type, which will make it a bit more difficult to weakness break him. And now, the second wave. This wave is basically all about performance points, which you can see right here. And it works like this. Each enemy can have performance points. Every performance point they have will increase their damage by 50%, which is quite a lot. Well, how do they get this performance points? When an enemy attacks. So if this soldier attacks, he doesn't have a performance point, he will get a performance point. The same case with this enemy, but he already has a performance point. So if you already have a performance point and you attack, then you will lose that performance point. Alright, that's the same case with the boss here in the middle. He has 2 single target attacks, which he often does back to back. So he attacks, he gets a performance point, and then the next action, because he always has 2 actions, he will lose that performance point. Because when you attack with a performance point, you lose that performance point. But the thing with the boss is this. He can absorb all the performance points on the field. So he has an ability that can absorb all the performance points of his allies if they had some. So in this case, he would have 2 performance points. But it's also possible that he absorbs nothing if these soldiers already did an attack. So then he would have 0. But let's say for in this case, he has 2. And when he does this absorbing performance points thing, he will do this AoE attack, which will do quite a lot of damage if he had absorbed performance points. So how do we get rid of these performance points then before his big boss attacks you, if he had any? That is by weakness breaking him. So if he has 2 performance points and you weakness break this boss, then he will lose all his performance points. That's the same case with the small soldiers. As you can see, this one has a performance point. If I weakness break him, he will lose that performance point. So the takeaway is, try to weakness break this boss before he attacks you if he has performance points. The soldiers aren't that big of a problem, since they're in the cycle. They attack you, they get the performance point, then their next turn they attack you again, and then they lose that performance point. But that attack did a bit more damage because of that performance point. So a thing that's recommended is, if a soldier has performance points, try to weakness break them. Because 1, they lose that performance point, so their next attack, if they recover from that weakness break, won't do that extra damage. And 2, that boss won't be able to absorb performance points from the soldier then. But you don't even have to stress too much about this whole point thing. Just know, does somebody have points? How do I reduce those points? Weakness break them. That's it. And now the third wave with the deer and his branches. Luckily, the deer in this pure fiction is a bit nerfed. Since the thing he normally tonks, he doesn't even do half of them. But still, he is quite the most difficult boss in the whole pure fiction. Makes sense, since he is the featured boss on the pure fiction banner when you go to the event tab in the Honkai tutorial. So what does the deer and his branches do? First, the deer. The deer has only 2 attacks. He has a single target attack and an AoE attack. That's it. But he has another ability, which he will do on his second turn, which increases his defense and makes it so that he cannot be weakness broken anymore, which is the most irritating thing. So the thing is, you need to try to do as much damage as possible before he gets his second turn. Well, more specifically, his second turn, second action, since he will get his defense up and make it so that you can reduce his toughness on the second action of his second turn. But this isn't the only difficult thing of this wave. The other difficult thing is this branch right here. Well, these branches. Normally the deer summons 4 branch types the whole time, but in this pure fiction he only summons these 2 branch types. This branch, what it does is heal all enemies when he gets a turn. That's the only thing he does. He heals the deer with around 0.5% HP, and the rest of the branches he heals them for around 25%. So sometimes when this branch heals the enemies, you will see that the deer gets 1% HP or he doesn't get any. That is because it is dependent on his current HP, if he was close to that percentage or not. So it's like around 0.5% HP. The other branch, what it does is this. The first turn he gets when he enters the battlefield is that he will enter this counter state. That means whenever he gets attacked, he will attack that character back with a single target attack. So, for example, if you're in a situation where, let's say, your Royal May has a little bit of energy left for her ultimate, but you know that basic attack won't get her that ultimate, you can just basic attack this branch, and he will attack you back, and you will get a little bit more energy back for that ultimate. And then the second turn of this branch, he will either give the deer an attack buff, or he will attack a random ally of yours. So if the deer already had an attack percentage buff because of this branch, then he won't give an attack buff, but he will just attack someone randomly of yours. That's it basically. So the takeaway is, try to do as much damage as possible before the deer gets his second turn, second action, where he increases his defense and makes it so that you cannot reduce his toughness bar. So hereby some guidelines on when you should restart to get as much points as possible if you cannot get all the rewards. The first time you should restart is when you cannot do most of your damage before the deer gets his defense up and makes it so that you cannot reduce his toughness bar. Sure, if you got Lucha or Perla, you can just remove that defense buff, but still you cannot reduce his toughness anymore, which will cost you that weakness break damage. Well, other times you can restart this when you have unlucky bounces. So for example, if you were using Asta, all the bounces go onto this one right here instead of the trash can or this soldier, well, then you just got unlucky. Same case if you were using Harmony MC. Other times you can restart this when you have just unlucky aggro. So a squishy ally got attacked the whole time instead of a tankier ally, which makes it so that you now need to waste a skill point of your sustainer, which means your DPS can now not use her skill because you got skill point issues. Just unlucky aggro situations like that. Or you just didn't do any consistent crits. That's also possible because you just got unlucky. So basically unlucky moments, which you will just notice along the way when you play the game. But do remember this though. You can play with the Herta if you plan on summoning with her, since she will be coming on the 15th of January if they keep up that 42 cycle that every 42 days a new version comes, since she was the first drip-marked character of version 3.0. So I assume she will be the first character that will come. But will she be good for this pure fiction? I will assume she will be, since she is an ice erudition character, and since the base form 4-star Herta is already so great, I think she will be an upgrade of the 4-star Herta. But we will have more specifics on the live stream date, where they will also reveal Remembrance MC her kit. And I assume Remembrance MC will also be playable when 3.0 releases, since she's a free character. That is how the MCs work. So you can just unlock her for free when you finish the main event or main story. So you can also use her for this pure fiction. But also with the release of 3.0, we'll be getting the variable dice, which will make it possible that you can just reroll the substats of your relic. You also get Wishful Resin, which will make it so that you can choose which main stat and substats you want for a relic piece. And of course, we'll be getting many more events that will just make your pure fiction run a bit easier because of all the resources we'll be getting with the double drop relic events. The battle pass will even refresh. So my main point is, don't stress. You got a lot of time before this pure fiction ends. The focus is just to get all your rewards before that refresh. You just got to do what is most fun for you. If you want to raw dog it with a face out team, you want to go for a full 4-star team, or you want to go a no sustain team or a 0 cycle team, whatever you can come up with. If you like it, do it. If you don't want to do all the restarts to get all the rewards, then don't. Just wait until you can build your characters a bit better, or summon for the upcoming characters. And if you still cannot get all the rewards, then you will just miss 80 or 160 jades. The main focus is of you having fun. So all in all, just do whatever you take joy in. You're the boss. So I thank you for your time and see you the next time. Bye.